For a while, I've been a fan of M-mount lenses, and there are many reasons why one would like them. In some sense, it's just the pleasure of operating fully manual, full metal bodies of those cameras. There are also many manufacturers that make those lenses, so you have choice of different effects, different glass formulas. Also, it's kind of nice how compact they are. Not necessarily light, but at least compact, even though there are much larger M-mount lenses like this one. But that's due to its special optical characteristic, this being 0.95 maximum aperture lenses. But basically, those are fun to use, and since I do not do photography professionally, fun is why I'm doing it to begin with. Now, that said, for a while, I've been using Leica as my main body to use with M-mount lenses. This is M11. I had M10 before that and predecessors before then. So I have quite a bit of experience with Leica cameras. And again, I appreciate them both being nice and compact to pack, as well as just quality of craftsmanship is great. And I think most people who own one appreciate what Leica produces and the quality of their design. That said, last several trips that I went to, instead of bringing my Leica, I opted out for a different camera. And let me make a case why I do so and why I actually think at this point it's probably one of the optimal cameras to use with M-mount lenses, which is this Nikon Zf. So obviously there is a huge cost difference. The cheapest Leica you can buy today, one without the optical viewfinder, Leica EV1, still some $6,000 more expensive than this camera. Now, given that I already own Leica cameras, clearly this is not about the price. But there are many other characteristics which make me reach for this camera for some of my trips. Number one is the one that I'm still surprised Leica did not accommodate is in-body stabilization. We're all used to the fact that manual lenses for M-mount lack in-lens stabilization, and in some sense, I would not trade more complicated optical design and larger lens size to gain the stabilizations. But having in-body stabilization is a totally different story. It marginally changes size of the body, but it gives you that flexibility of stabilization that you need sometimes. Too much time, or I don't want to carry extra weight of the tripod, etc. So in-body stabilization is super useful feature lacking in Leica rangefinder cameras and available in Nikon. Now, at this point, I'm using it with this Voigtlander adapter, which does not 6-bit coding, meaning that the body doesn't know the focal length of the lens that I'm using it with. So I need to manually set the focal length for in-body stabilization to work properly. It's not super difficult. I don't change lenses all the time, so it's not a lot of work. But even if that is too much work for you, there are adapters such as the one by TT Artesian that has a capability to understand 6-bit coding and translate it to body's focal length. So the body automatically knows the focal length of the lens you're attaching. In terms of actual focusing, as of late, I prefer electronic viewfinder. There are multiple reasons for this. Number one, it's always much easier to adjust to your vision. You do not need to invest into another accessory. At this point, I need to have optically corrected piece attached to my Leica because of my vision. So this is all comes for free with electronic viewfinder. But even if we compare Nikon to the latest just released EV1, which is electronic viewfinder Leica M rangefinder camera, in some respects, I still prefer this viewfinder. In terms of resolution, it's a couple years old, so it falls a little bit behind. This one being at roughly 3.7 megapixel, whereas Leica, I think, is around 5.7 megapixel. At the same time, in terms of magnification, it's still a little bit better at 0.8 versus 0.76, I believe, for Leica EV1. But the viewfinder itself is also larger, so it forms a better seal with your eye, cutting out ambient light, making it easier for me to operate. Now, both EV1 and Nikon Zf offer focus assist, where with a hit of the button it gives you magnification, and there is focus peaking that gives you a different pattern. It makes it easier to identify edges when they're in focus. So basically, I don't find any meaningful distinction between the two. Once in a while, you do need to focus using LCD instead of viewfinder. And that typically happens because you're shooting at weird angles, such as camera being way down or way up above your head. And this is where Nikon offers you much more flexibility with articulated LCD screen, something that Leica EV1 does not have. So I find this camera easier to operate in that respect as well. Of course, if we're comparing it to the optical rangefinder Leica, such as M11 that I own, there are other advantages of electronic viewfinder. First of all, it covers all focal length. So when I'm shooting with wider angle Leicas, like 16, 18, 21 millimeter, I need to focus using the optical rangefinder, but then compose using LCD, which makes it a two-step process, which I do not like. I prefer to do composition and focusing in one step, in which case you do need electronic viewfinder. And there are some other advantages, such as immediate ability to see review of the image that you took without taking your eye out of the eyepiece. They're all present in EV1, but if you're going with optical rangefinder, it doesn't work as smoothly. Now, Leica is known for its streamlined controls. It's not a busy camera. It has very few buttons and only a couple of critical dials at the top. And I very much appreciate this design. Nikon camera is obviously much busier, but it does have all the same tactile controls that we appreciate on a Leica, and a lot of buttons that you can configure to do all of the functions that you need. Not only that, but those people who appreciate Leica and its brass top plate will also appreciate the fact that Nikon also has brass top plate, which will look very similarly once it wears off somewhat. Right now, this one is not worn off yet, so it's still nice and black. With EV1, Leica had to remove the ISO dial from the top, this dial right here, to accommodate the electronic viewfinder. So now ISO is one of the critical controls. So I don't actually appreciate not having access to this. And luckily with Nikon, you can have all of that and many more. In terms of controls, this is a pretty rich camera control-wise. So you don't sacrifice on any of the easy access. One of the other weaknesses of rangefinders is inability to do close focus. Historically, it hasn't been very interesting to give cameras close focus capabilities because rangefinder doesn't work very well at close focus. Now, when you're going with electronic viewfinder, this close focus is no longer a limitation. So technically, EV1 can focus as closely as the lens allows it to, except for one thing: none of the lenses are meant to be close focus lenses. Now, that said, if you're adapting Leica lenses to this using this Voigtlander adapter, it actually has close focus capabilities given by the adapter, which allows you to create those close-up shots that otherwise impossible with the lens itself. And this capability obviously is not available on natively M-mount body like EV1 because there is no adapter, so there is nothing to provide this capability. I do find this functionality useful once in a while when I do take pictures of food, or there are some other close-up when I travel, and this is something that I miss with my M-body. So I prefer using manual lenses, manual focus most of the time. This is when I can operate at my pace, I have some time to focus, but this is not always the case. There are situations once in a while where I'm working with a group or it's quite busy, and I'm genuinely concerned that I may not have enough time to operate manual focus lens, so I need something faster. And in this case, I may actually opt out for capability to have a zoom lens, which allows me not to worry about having to change lenses, and autofocus. so that whole process of taking pictures is much faster. And this is where I appreciate the fact that I can take the same body and just carry with me, so in this case it's 2470 Nikon lens, which is kind of versatile normal zoom and typically covers most of the range that I'm used to. Having this as an option is very useful. As much as I would prefer to shoot always manually with the small cool lenses, sometimes you just don't have time to operate them. So another reason why I appreciate having Nikon native lens with me is weather sealing. So Nikon body is environmentally sealed, which is not the case for any of the Leica bodies. And even if Leica body was environmentally sealed, none of the Leica lenses are at the moment. But again, if I switch from using this camera with a Leica adapter to native Z-mount lenses, I get a fully environmentally sealed package. So I can shoot in the rain, I can shoot near waterfall, etc., which is actually quite often. I'm all-weather traveler, so in many cases I am walking around when it's raining and I do not want to lose ability to take pictures. This is yet another great capability that you gain by traveling with this body. Finally, everything that I described seemingly applies to many mirrorless cameras, not just Nikon one. And this is true. Those would be advantages if you go with Panasonic, if you go with Canon, etc. There are a couple of things why I prefer this body specifically. So number one is just look and feel. This steel made to look like a retro camera with the textile controls, etc. So from my standpoint, it does not detract quite as much from my pleasure of operating manual camera. Number two is more technical. So quality of the image depends on the flash distance between the rear element of the lens and the sensor. So Nikon has one of the thinnest sensors, which gives you the maximum gap, which removes a lot of color casting and other artifacts that you may see with the thicker sensors, such as those by Sony. And that's another reason why Nikon makes a good candidate. So putting it all together, obviously I still appreciate Leica bodies and quality of Leica craftsmanship. I think it's an excellent choice and I definitely wouldn't discourage anybody from owning one, using one, etc. But when I need to travel and I need to bring a single body with me, in many cases, I actually opt out for Nikon right now because of all of this versatility, quality of image that still I don't feel I'm sacrificing.